Hi everyone, welcome to the Change and Transformation Tribe. For those of us new to this, this is a brand new launch, so you'll need to bear with me a little bit while I make sure that this technology is all working properly. It's my first Facebook Live, so there you go. Now there is a chat area if anyone is there watching, if you could please send me a message, let me know that this is actually working and getting through okay. So I'll start to get us going, and as you join us, please type something into the chat. So first of all, it's again, welcome. This is a new group, and we will be talking a lot about transformation and change, especially, the importance of it right now with the COVID situation, as well as any other situation that you might find relevant in the future. So as we develop and grow together and learn together, this will be the focus of this group. If you haven't joined the group, please go to the link and ask to join our private transformation tribe. So, are we ready to talk about this? Are we ready to talk transformation? What is transformation? How did you get involved in this transformation process? When did you, discover your interest in transformation? And just share with you a real quick story. I had to think back as to when did I really learn about transformation? What is transformation? It's about learning about change. How did I get to the point of realizing that I'm a great agent of transformation, of change? So take me back a little bit and just share with you a little story. I grew up in a family. There was two of us, two brothers. My brother was 3 years older than I am. So, one thing that I developed fairly early, which we cover in the AccuMatch Transformation Dictionary, I call it, of behaviors. One of the behaviors that I developed is the one where you decide, well, you don't decide, you develop a program of either self or other. And so as the youngest child, whenever my brother took away one of my toys, and being that he was 3 years older than I am, it was very hard for me to reach and get that off him. If he stood really tall, he could keep that away from me for quite some time. So I would run to Mum and say, Mom, I can't get my toy. And she would yell out to him and say, give your brother his toy. And that little exercise, that little thing just created two behavior patterns. One of, give your brother the toy, stop teasing your brother, help him, support him, all of that older child syndrome, as we call it, now that we know all of these things, is the high other. So he grew up to be more focused on helping others, whereas I grew up, that's mine, that's me, it's, give it to me, it's mine, right? So I developed maybe the opposite end of that. Now that I understand these behaviors, it helps me to do that. So when you think about when did you discover your interest in transformation, you need to go back. You need to go back quite a bit in time, So, for me, maybe one of the biggest things was, I grew up, I was 11 years old when my parents immigrated from Egypt to Australia. And I had to learn a new language, go to a new school. I grew up in fortunately in a French Catholic environment. Actually, you should look that up. It's in Egypt, Alexandria. It's called Collège de Saint-Marc. It's one of the icons, I think, of schools in that whole region. So, long story short, I had to not only learn English, learn new school, new culture, new behaviors, but we also moved many times, so I think that created that, ability to adopt new cultures quickly, adopt new environments quickly, to change in order to fit in and so forth. So when you think about when did you get your interest in transformation, when did you really become attuned to being able to change quickly, and later when did you learn how to help others do that? Just go back a little bit further. I think you can have a little bit of fun with that as well. So again, if there's any questions, please type them in the chat. I'll be watching for it and trying to answer your questions as we go along. So, what is transformation really? Is it just a fancy word for change? I think over the years we've seen many different words come out, through my career at least. At IBM we had TQM, Total Quality Management, was the early adoption of some of these things. When I was consulting, we had business re-engineering, re-engineering the corporation. We were part of the pioneers of that, so I embraced that fairly quickly. I led many projects, some very large projects, and rapid application development was another method that was introduced that required for us to shift our thinking completely from the way we used to do projects to new ways of doing projects. So transformation, what is it? Where does it fit in? Is it about the business re-engineering? What do you do when you do transformation? Do you re-engineer the company, the organization, or do you deal with change management in a cultural manner? What is it that you really do? And I think this is a really interesting topic, and we really need to go into all of those areas because transformation is quite a huge topic. It could be technology-led transformation. So, today we have a lot of focus on business transformation that is IT focused. So what is that? In the genetics world and medical field, there is genetic transformation that takes place. There are leadership transformations. We do a lot of work with leadership intelligence. In my early days, we did a lot of work with processes and workflows and technology driven transformation. Technology-driven transformation, for me, I have an engineering background, but my interest was always in the human factor of engineering. So anytime you introduce new technology, you've got to consider the people that are going to use it, how they're going to use it, how it's going to impact them, how it's going to impact the flow, the psychology, who's going to resist and who's going to actually jump on board. And today, with the AccuMatch, we're able to, as I mentioned earlier, have a transformation dictionary that tells us a lot about the behavior patterns of individuals and cultures and so forth. So, to transform is to modify or change. That's really the definition almost straight out of the dictionary. You change or modify something from one thing into another. It's not about staying the same. So, when we talk about the COVID situation and we talk about pivot, which we'll touch on a little bit later on, really it's not about keeping things the same. And who is able to adopt change quickly? Who is able to adapt to the changes that are happening? And do they adapt too quickly? Do they jump into it far too quickly, or do they jump in slowly? Do they not jump in at all? All of these factors are things that we are dealing with right now. Perhaps, you've got some stories to share. Please feel free to put some questions in the chat, and let me see if I can answer some of those for you. Okay. Are you transforming people or business processes? Really, they're the two key things, in coaching, at least. Often business coaches focus on one and not the other. And in reality, why I put those two up here is we can't do one without the other. Whenever you change a process, you really need to consider the people that are going to use that. If you, even in manufacturing as a perfect example, if you introduce new machinery that people have to use, then you need to figure out, how are they going to be used? Where are they going to stand? Are they going to be able to reach all of the buttons and safety mechanisms? All of these things need to be taken into consideration when an engineer builds a new device or a new machine that people are going to use in a factory environment. The same with software, is it intuitive as to how I go from one step to another? How do I interact with this, etc.? So we need to consider people. And then we need to consider the psychology, the resistance to change, or the ability to, people are all different, right? And some people can take in information visually very quickly, while others take it in slowly. So what is your approach of transformation? Sometimes it can be too quick, and sometimes it hasn't been tested. All of these areas are important when we consider transformation. I mentioned, pivot. That's a buzzword that came out of the COVID situation. Now, what does it mean? Does it mean a small change, tweaking a couple of things and keeping things the same? Or as the word itself means, a complete axis shift, when we do pivots in spreadsheets, we're just turning the whole thing sideways, instead of vertical, we're putting it horizontal. And so that's a pretty significant shift. And I think we all know that not everybody out there is dealing with that very well. And we really need to take the time here and discuss, why that is. Is it the change itself is too great on the business? I don't think so. I think it's too great on the people in most cases. So we need to come back to, transformation always impacts people. This is a bit of a fun one. Is it a conspiracy, or is it a scientific fact? The conspiracy theory people, I'm not an expert at these areas, but I just want to throw an example out there. If I am healthy and everybody in my bubble is healthy and everyone around me that I interact with is healthy, I might start to believe the conspiracy theories that, this is just made up, or, that we're gathering the wrong statistics, the wrong data, etc. Now, the flip side of that, we have the scientific facts, the numbers, the data, the scientists telling us all of this reality of their world, of what they are seeing in hospitals, in all kinds of situations where people are dying. So, you have one bubble that is one extreme and another bubble that's the other extreme. Who's right? And in reality, all I want to say is they're both right. When you consider their point of view, their situation, their bubble, if you like, and even if you put all the facts within that bubble, you're going to come up with, this is absolutely correct, this is true. And so what we want to do really is realize that we need to be open-minded about all of the different points of view. It's not black and white. It's not my world for everybody. It's not my rules for everybody. These become limiting thought processes. Often talk about limiting belief. Okay, clear thinking has no biases. That's very hard for us to do as human beings because we've been conditioned through all our lives to observe what's going on and filter that, which then creates our biases, which are really part of our survival mechanism. But to be truly neutral and thinking clearly and analyzing all of the different perspectives, all of the different situations, we need to suppress our filters and learn to control our biases. Again, that's a topic for great discussion over the coming weeks. We can open those up. Now, the one thing that's common to the challenges of transformation and the challenges to control our biases and our filters, it's nobody else. It's me, right? It's you. It's how you think. It's how you take in information. So understanding what's going on between our ears is critical to being able to change ourselves. And when we're working with others, it's the same for them. For you to change, you need to become aware of these things. You're the common factor. This is another little bit of a funny story. We had a couple of situations where people are, wondering. A leader came forward to one of our coaches and said, I keep having challenges. I had the same challenge in my previous company that I was running, and I'm having the same challenges again in this company. And so, the common factor was him, the leader. So he was trying to figure out how to work with other people, but what he really needed to understand is his own blind spots, his own limiting beliefs, perhaps, that were getting him the results that he is getting today. So interesting when you think about the common factor in the results that you are getting, and if it's to do with interacting with people or anything, maybe it's you. You're the common factor in your own results. Work on you, and your outcomes and your results will follow. If you be a better you, become a better behavior intelligence expert, you become a better leader, you become more successful in life, in business, in many areas. It all comes down to yourself. So, very quickly, look back at some of those transformations. Regardless of the field, technology is going to impact the people. If you're rolling out new technology, because, one of the advantages in business, especially in service-oriented businesses, is how well you use technology. What's the operational process to deliver your service quickly, effectively? Do you watch for feedback? Do you listen to the feedback? Do you implement feedback? All of these things are really as regarding how well you use technology. If it's a genetic thing, you might be dealing with culture. Are people going to accept genetic changes? cloning people is still not an acceptable thing worldwide, but cloning organs and things like that may be a little bit more acceptable. So we're again dealing with rules of population, when we talk about culture. This is culture is another word for a group behavior. Well, a group behavior is the observed part, but it's the stuff between the ears that causes us to act in a particular way. So again, what's the thinking? What are the limiting beliefs? What are the rules that we're going through, etc., to do that? Leadership affects people. You can't be a leader, although some people try to be. I think that's going to be probably one of our topics in the coming weeks. Leaders forget that the word leader is about leading people. It's not about business processes. It's not about doing a good job because you used to be an engineer and now you're managing engineers. No, it's none of those things. It's leading people. And when we're leading people, we need to know our own biases. We need to be open to lots of different personalities. And in order to be a transformation agent within an organization as a leader, you've got to be aware of these things. Thanks, Addie. Good to see you online. I appreciate your input. If anybody else has any thoughts or questions, please feel free to put them in the chat here. So, if you want to improve your success at anything, it's always going to come down to you. You need to change. Staying the same will just get you the same result. That's definition of insanity. If you expect things to be different by doing all the same things, then you're kidding yourself. You need to change in order to get a different result. An interesting one here is really to touch quickly on the why. Simon Sinek has done an amazing job of putting that out there. He says, don't focus on the what and how before you actually get to look at the why. Understand the why being the driver before you focus on the what and how. Why do you want something? Why do you want to achieve what you want to achieve? But keep in mind that your why may not be fixed. Okay, your why today is different from your why 10 years ago, 5 years ago, and maybe even your why before COVID. All right. So when we look at the why, sometimes we need to push ourselves outside our comfort zone to discover and find a new why. Okay, maybe the why is based on my upbringing from my parents, rules that are being given that have become a powerful part of my values and beliefs, and they're not fixed. I was born a blank slate. I learned all those things, so I can learn new things, and as I learn new things, I can create a different why. And really, the limitation is knowledge. Knowledge suppresses our ability to expand, to grow, to develop, and so forth. So again, the reason for this group and for talking about transformation is everything revolves around us making some changes, even if they're minor changes. We need to explore all of these things. As I said, you weren't born with it, so it's okay. Go get yourself a new why. You can do it. You can change. You can create new programs. It's amazing what we're able to do today. I've pushed myself in so many different areas throughout my life. From engineering to management to starting businesses to being public sector, constantly pushing and driving and developing new ways. My passions today are so different from my passions when I first started my career. So it's possible. You can do it. And look, right now with COVID, this is the one thing we need people to understand and embrace. You can't get a new result in the current situation if you keep doing the same thing. I know I'm repeating myself, but that's important. So in the coming weeks, as we focus on coaching and leadership, we'll call on you to share with us some of your best practices. I don't have all the answers. It would be nice if I did, but I do a lot of research and a lot of analysis and diving deep into being a little bit of a scientist when it comes to anything that I do. I like to test and measure and break things. I've been told that I'm often the best at breaking any system because I push the limits and boundaries. That's the way I've developed things, and that's the way I build and create leading edge thinking, innovations, etc. So over the coming weeks, let's share everybody's best practices and let's discuss them. I look forward to that. There is an ebook on our website. If you want to start diving into some of the behavior intelligence and the background into that, please go ahead and jump onto the site accumatchbi.com. There's a link right there to download the ebook, and do us all a favor and please share this link. I think if we want to have an impact throughout the world, we really need to start talking about this stuff. We need to share this information and explore it with each other. So again, thank you. I'm looking for any questions that come up. I'm just going to give it a minute here, and if I don't see your questions now, we'll follow you, and as you interact and share this video, I'm sure we'll get a lot of traction and discussions happening around this. Thanks, and stay safe.